Has anyone ever asked the guy in charge of Super Rugby strips to take a simple test? Are you colourblind, sir?
Why do we have two Super Rugby Pacific games being played in the same metropolitan area on the same day? It absolutely makes no sense to me.
The Australian teams, closing the gap, as it were. I cautioned a few weeks ago that we should wait at least until halfway and get a sense of what happens when there's more crossover matches.
Welcome to the DSPN.
John Walker wins the 1,500 metres gold medal at the Olympic Games. The All Blacks have won by 29 points tonight.
The Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome to the podcast, people. Marty Devlin, Lachlan Waugh. It's Monday, which means we review Super Rugby Round 8. Tony Johnson joining us as always from Sky Sport. Tony was calling the Blues versus the Canes at Eden Park. Those Blues getting away with it again against the Canes, the only team that they can beat. And they've beaten them twice this season. As well as that, Jeff Parks, the Raw out of Melbourne, he's writing an article today about, is this the beginning of the end for the Australian teams? Is the bubble about to burst? Hey, there's still 4 of them in the top 6. Plus, our ever popular, our increasingly popular, you've got to make it popular by clicking the subscribe button. Popular Super Rugby Rankings. We do this every week, and there's quite a few changes this week.
Marty Sermons, brought to you by WebWonks. Generate online leads with WebWonks. Doctors for your Google data.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
So what do we learn about Super Rugby Round 8? First and foremost, the Blues are alive, No, they're not back as such, but yes, they're clinging on. A loss to the Canes, they were gone. A squeaky 1-point win, though, means there is still hope the defending champs might make the finals. Their next 3 games are home to a resurgent Moana Pasifika, away Crusaders and away Reds, meaning they have to win at least 2 of those on the road, which means winning in either Christchurch or Brisbane. They still have a chance, but it's a slim one. Alive and trying to survive. The Hurricanes, meanwhile, must be wondering, why us? The only team to lose to the Blues all season, and it's happened twice. Both times by the barest of margins. They're a team that, just can't seem to get going this year. The Crusaders bounced back impressively in Suva, and that loss, you'd think, pretty much ends the season and any final hopes for the Drua. We learned that the Aussie sides find it very tough to win here in New Zealand still. The Reds did okay against the Chiefs, but on a flat, dry track. I got the feeling that the Chiefs would have probably run away with that. Highlanders look just about done. They've got the Drua at home next. That's a must-win. Then the Chiefs and the Crusaders. Like the Blues, they simply have to beat one of those two, or it's all over. And next week, we'll find out perhaps who the best Aussie side really is. A rested Brumbies taking on the Reds in Brisbane. Finally, we've talked about this before, and after another weekend of even more confusion, it needs bringing up again. Who is the guy, or who are the people or committee or office or whoever it is in charge of choosing the team jerseys every weekend? Because whoever it is or whoever you are, why do you continue to cock this up? It seems the most simple of things to get right, yet someone somehow every weekend still gets it wrong. MP versus New South Wales. One team was wearing light blue on top with dark blue shorts. The other team, dark blue on top with light blue shorts. Now, if they both stayed on their own sides of the field like a volleyball match, well, it'd be okay. But this is rugby! It's bull rush with extra rucks on board. A whole heap of players always in a tangle together in the middle of the field. Hard enough to figure it out when you're watching it on TV, let alone if you're right in amongst it like the referee. Are these people colourblind? Seriously, I'm asking seriously, are they colourblind? Because whoever it is clearly can't tell basic colours apart. Every weekend, at least one game always seems to involve 2 teams wearing the same coloured strip. And the height of this lunacy happened during the Marvel Kids round when no one knew who any of the teams were. Again, more confusion Saturday night, Blues versus Canes. One team was wearing black, the other red. You tune in and instantly wonder, who is who here? And why? It just seems so easy. One team is called the Blues. You know this. They wear blue. You know this. The Hurricanes' traditional strip is yellow. It has been for the last 29 years. And if you'd stuck to it, it would have worked perfectly. Blue versus yellow. There's no confusion. Everyone immediately knows who both teams are. So why all this clever dick chopping and changing? I just don't get it. Can someone please explain what exactly is the point again? Just wear blue and yellow, you morons. How hard is it? Statistically, Officially, 8% of men worldwide suffer some form of colourblindness. Again, I'm serious about this. Has anyone ever asked the guy in charge of Super Rugby strips to take a simple test? Are you colourblind, sir? See, I don't know what's more weird. The fact that it happens so often, or that no one involved in the administration of this competition ever seems to want to fix it.
Devlin.
Super Rugby rankings, and it's time, Lachlan, for our increasingly popular, ever popular, sometimes gets people racked up. And if you want to leave us a comment about the Super Rugby rankings, please do. DSPN YouTube channel. We're all across social media as well. We've cracked 700,000 views on our YouTube channel in just 18 weeks. So thank you very much for that. We need your help though. Subscribe and get us to 10,000 subscribers as quick as we possibly can. And then we can continue to provide this for you for free, so that you can watch all of this stuff and you don't have to pay for a single bit of it. Thank you very much for your support. Rankings. The only official rankings are the points table, which doesn't lie. Chiefs, Crusaders, Reds, Force, Brumbies, New South Wales, in that order. 4 Aussie teams still in the top 6. Hurricanes, MP, Highlanders, Blues, Drua. Well, we start bottom to top. Number 11. I hate to say it. They're 1-6. The Drua.
Well, you loved saying it when it was the Blues.
Yes, I did, and I relegated them.
You're playing favourites.
Wooden spoon incoming. I'm sorry for the Drua. They've tried, they've toiled, they've played some great rugby at times, but just can't seem to win. And a little ironic, isn't it, that the only win they've had is against the team that's only lost once, and that's the Chiefs. And they did that in Lautoka. Do you disagree with the Drua at 11?
No, I think apart from that Chiefs result, which I don't want to say the Chiefs were the better side in that game, but it felt they had an edge over the Ndrua, who then came up with a couple of brilliant plays towards the end of the game that won it. The Ndrua against the Crusaders over the weekend were pretty ordinary. They made it sort of interesting late on, but again, some
that
exciting
game was
moments.
over in the first half, mate.
Well, there's some exciting moments that just lacked a bit of polish and, I don't know, finishing ability. No, they've been pretty... watching it, I felt quite bad, actually, because, we talk about Moana Pasifika, who have seemed to go to another level. What that's down to is up for debate. And then you got the Ndrua, who sort of got up to a level, especially when they beat the Crusaders in 2023 in Fiji, and everyone's like, hold on. And they just kind of have stayed there.
The pack. In at 10, the Highlanders. Last week they were 8, they're 2-5. Same as the Drua. They played some great rugby, but just can't seem to get over the line. 5 close losses. That loss to the Force means they've now been beaten by all 4 of the Aussie sides.
Yeah,
so
that's not good.
They're 2-5. They're not going to make it. I just feel like they're 3 or 4 quality players shy, that team.
Well, they've lost 5 in a row, haven't they? No, 4 in a row, excuse me. They've lost 4 in a row. So they've got the Ndrua next, away to the Chiefs, Crusaders. Crusaders are beatable, I think. Moana Pasifika, who by then they might have fallen away, who knows. So there's moments for the Highlanders where they can make up ground.
Yes.
But they don't travel well. That's their issue, it seems.
I just think that they're suffering from the fact that their squad isn't as good as the rest of the New Zealand squads. And mind you, having said that, they lost to the Hurricanes, didn't they? They lost to the Hurricanes.
Well, they only lost by 2 points.
They beat the Blues.
They beat the Blues.
In at number 9, New South Wales. They're 4-3. Last week I had them at 7. The last 2 losses have both been hidings. They conceded a combined 102 points to the Canes and MP and were physically smashed in both games. If you remember that Hurricanes game, the Hurricanes were just pounding them on the gain line, and on the gain line, and MP, Moana Pasifika, squashed them. So I'm going to take you back, and you got to look this up for yourself. I don't know where, but at the pre-season, they were putting out all these videos, New South Wales, of themselves smashing each other in tackles and wrestling and all this physical stuff they were doing to prepare for the season.
Were they?
Real macho stuff it was. It was all over my Instagram. None of it's working. They aren't making the top 6. They might be 4-3. I've got them at 9. The Chiefs are going to end their season this Friday.
Are they?
They are.
Well, the Waratahs are pretty good at home.
So it doesn't matter, mate. They're weak is what they are. They're physically weak, and they've been beaten up by those 2 New Zealand sides. 102 points.
Yeah, I'll stay to give a plug to another game that we play. I'll be glass half full about them, only because of their coaching group and they've got some good players. So I still think they're a tough side. I mean, that's not a lot. The Chiefs, look, they might have beaten the Reds. The Chiefs have been far from perfect the last month or so. No, they weren't.
I'll argue about that with you.
They were good.
They were bloody good,
but
mate.
they weren't. However many points they won by, they weren't that much better than the Reds.
Let's wait till we get to the top of the table.
That game was there for the taking.
New South Wales are 9th, and that's where they deserve to be, even though they're 4-3.
I'd probably put them ahead of the Force.
In at 8, I've got the Force. They're 4-4.
No,
Last week they were 9. They're 4th on the actual table, but I just think that's a false storm. They're not better than the Canes, the Blues, or Moana Pasifika.
Well, they're not better than the Waratahs, I don't think.
And even then, yeah, well, they're 4.
The Waratahs beat them when they played.
Yeah, but that was the old Waratahs. This new Waratahs is a really weak side.
The rules for the second keep changing.
Look, the Force beat the Brumbies in round 2, but I don't think they should be sitting where they are, and a comeuppance is coming for them. They're 8th. They're not making the 6th. They might be a 4th spot on the real table, but they're not. Are they making the 6th?
No, I don't think
not.
so. But because last week we essentially listed 5 teams that we thought were locks, which were the Chiefs, the Reds, the Crusaders. We had the Brumbies. Who were I
had the Canes in there, but I don't know about that.
You had the Canes, and you had the Blues as well. I don't know if you've got
changed.
the Canes in there anymore.
7 Canes, 3 and 4. Last week they were 5.
Just quickly, the Force, their next 3 games, Kiwi sides, and then they've got the Brumbies after that. So their season could end in the next 2 weeks, let alone 4.
Why can't the Hurricanes beat the goddamn Blues? They're the only team in the comp that's lost to the Blues. Why can't they beat the Blues?
This is a bit like last year that the Waratahs won 2 games all year and they were against the Crusaders.
Can't seem to get it. I just think the Hurricanes have had one of those seasons, they're 3 and 4, where they just can't seem to get any momentum. Tony Johnson was talking about it, and he was saying that it's just, can you back up last week and play that well again? Like against New South Wales, they were brilliant in that second half. And then it's not like they were really bad against the Blues, but they just...
No, they were the better side in the first half. The Blues were ordinary.
But they just can't seem to play for 80 minutes consistently week after week.
Well, they can't. I mean, the Waratahs game seems to be an anomaly. Even against the Highlanders, they were pretty ordinary.
They were scratchy against the Drua and Napier, remember? It was only because the poor Drua guys had to
funnily
get carted in the luggage truck and then had to wait around all day.
Jeez, they're a bunch of sooks. They look at the photos of them in that truck. They were smiling. That was also on the way from the Auckland airport to, I think, their accommodation. There wasn't
they had to drive
Napier,
to the cargo in the back of a truck.
Man, you make excuse making for the Drua. You're sad to the bottom of your rankings, and if the Blues are there, you're stupid. If the Blues, you relegate the Blues. Not only do you give it to them, you relegate.
Well, the Blues weren't even in this. They weren't even in these rankings for the last 2 weeks. Okay,
but back to the Hurricanes. They looked good against the Blues in the first match of the season.
But they didn't.
But that's the thing, they didn't. And then they were far better than the Blues on. So I was at that game.
And what happened?
I just sat there. After about half an hour, I thought, if the Blues turn, where are they? Where are the Blues?
Who
are these guys on the field? Who are these Spider-Men?
What you said was, which team's which? Sorry, I can't get it. Well, who's the Hurricanes? You're in yellow?
I don't care, but the Marvel round, whatever, that was fun. Kids were in the jerseys, that's great and whatnot, but you had your Marvel round. I turned up to the stadium and saw those Spider-Man shirts and thought, come on. Wear your blue up against a team wearing yellow. Old school.
No,
Super
that's just what it is.
Since the 90s, but
they're called the Blues because they wear
blue.
They're called the Reds because they wear
red.
It's not that friggin' difficult.
But the Hurricanes are a strange one. I still think they'll probably make the top 6, but they are a strange one.
Number 6, my Blues, back into the top 6. 2 and 5. Now, teams below them on these rankings have all got better records. Canes, Force and New South Wales. Banished from the comp for 2 weekends, replaced by Georgia. They got to be above the Canes because they've beaten them twice. And I think that they are better than the Force, New South Wales, and I think the Highlanders. And I think if Beauden Barrett stays fit, they're going to sneak into the top 6 in 6th spot. I got the Blues at 6. Argue against that.
No, I probably agree. Hold on, remind me. So 11th, you got the Drua.
Yeah, Highlanders at 10, New South Wales 9, Force at 8, Canes 7, Blues at 6.
Yeah, Canes and Blues, I think. I know that the Blues have beaten them twice, but they're interchangeable. I think.
Okay, but I mean, at the moment, they've beaten them twice, so they've got to be above them. On the vibe ladder, which is what this is.
Well, then, by your logic, that because they beat them, shouldn't the Drua be higher than the Chiefs?
No, because they've only won one game.
So that
they've only won one game.
Falls on its own sword.
No, mathematically, that would be impossible.
Yeah, the Blues are man, I mean, they've got injuries, but I mean, they're
not a great team, are they, at the moment? They're just not.
Well, they've seemed to have lost their identity a little bit, but it's the execution and the precision of how they played last year is not happening this year. No. But they've got guys back now, and But so, again, they and the Hurricanes are in the same boat. No one really, to be fair, and maybe I fell into this boat a little bit, no one talked enough about the Hurricanes' injuries. We just went on about the Blues and they got injuries because they won it last year. But both teams have been the same. Battling injuries, can't get any momentum, look really ordinary when they win. When they lose, they might be competitive. Like the Blues' best performance, arguably, was when they lost to the Chiefs in Hamilton.
Yeah.
All that first half against the Brumbies.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Number 5, MP. Again, a negative record. So I've got 2 teams at 5 and 6, both with negative records, with teams below them with better records. But I've got Moana Pasifika making history every week, it seems. First time ever they've won 2 in a row. They're on a roll. They scored almost 100 points, in the last 2 games. Big, robust, physical, relentless. 2 mighty performances. They beat the Blues this Saturday night. They are right in it. And what a season, what a story that would be.
They'll probably, Blues fans will be outnumbered.
They also started 0-3. So they're 3-1 after that, okay? But the last 2 performances, can they go 3 in a row?
Well, just quickly.
Can they go 3 in a row?
Let's rewind a little bit. They might have started 0-3, but they shouldn't have lost that game.
To the Force. Yeah, 98 minutes of injury time?
That one they should not have lost. No. And then the Reds game,
they got plastered by the Reds.
But then there was the Highlanders game where they were down 31-10, I think, at half-time. Yeah. And then they came roaring home and fell just short.
You blanked them in the second half.
If things had gone there, a couple of bounces of the ball, a couple of kicks gone over.
Well, you could say that about everything.
I know, but isolated Moana Pasifika, they could be 5-2.
Tell me that they don't deserve to be in the top 6 right now, the way they're playing.
Yeah, because the Chiefs, the Crusaders, the Reds, the Brumbies, they're all better sides. I've got blue tinted glasses on still. I still think the Blues are a better team than them. And I think the Hurricanes, even though they beat the Hurricanes, I still think the Hurricanes are as well.
So look, what we're agreeing on is our top 4 is our top 4. And I think all the teams, and you know how this folds because it's pretty easy from here on in. I think all top 4 teams are going to make it. And I think this is going to be like...
The Force? You think the Force
No, the Force are 8th.
Oh, you're talking about your top 4.
The Force are 8th. So I think it's a bit like the NRL. I think there's going to be about 7 or 8 NRL teams battling for 5 to 8 like there is every year. I think there's about 3 or 4 teams in this comp battling for 5 and 6. MP and the Blues, the Canes are amongst them. And I think maybe the Force because they've actually got enough points at the moment.
It comes to, because if the Brumbies, let's assume that, I don't know, I'm jumping ahead here.
Brumbies are in 4th.
But let's assume that they lose this weekend to the Reds.
All
of a sudden they're in that fighting pack as well.
Yeah, but I think that they're good enough. They face the Reds for the top dog in Aussie this weekend. And I just think that even though they've lost a couple of games, they are the team, when you look at their squad, I just think they might come home with a wet sail. They've done the tough trips, right? And I think that their draw is a little easier. Reds, I've got at 3. They did pretty well versus the Chiefs. I didn't think they were ever going to win the game. 2 losses versus the top New Zealand sides. So they're only 2 losses. So they're 5-2, the Reds. They've got to be at 3 ahead of this game against the Brumbies, don't they? That's for the best team in Australia this coming weekend. And it's in Brisbane, so you'd favour them.
Oh, for sure, they're at home.
So I think that 1, 2, 3 and 4. Crusaders at 2. Impressive win away the Drua. Few players getting rested. Spanked by Moana. But I got a feeling that they could be hosting a semi-final. They're 5-2, same as the Reds. And obviously the Chiefs are at 1. One little blip in losing to the Drua. But they're the best team in the comp. I thought the Crusaders were a couple of weeks ago, but I'm changing my mind on that.
Because you're a fair weather fan. So
Not because I vibe the rankings. I feel the rankings on a weekly basis. That's what I do.
A crystal ball and some, what are they called, tarot cards?
Whatever.
Or some weird card reading stuff.
Yeah.
You're the black magic little doll at a mall.
Roll up joints of oregano and smoke those, whatever it takes for you to get that vibe.
When you burnt sage inside the Boston Garden.
All of that.
Returned. Sage.
Whatever.
So the Chiefs, I got to say... You can't just look at the
points table. You can't look at that and actually think that that's real. What's real is what you are looking at yourself and seeing on the screen. But don't you also,
and you and Brett McKay said this loudly last week, the table doesn't lie.
Apart from that bit.
The Chiefs, again, yes, they're top of the table, and I'm being very nitpicky here. I'm looking for something to complain about. 6-1. They've got the best points difference. They're only 2 points ahead of the Crusaders. But are they playing each other a second time this year?
Well, they got to.
They are, on the 10th of May.
There you go.
They're away to the Waratahs. Yeah, look, I mean, the Reds, the Moana Pasifika game, all of them, really, the Chiefs have not been great. It's not really since that win of the Crusaders. Like, even the Brumbies game, that score flattered. I mean, you said it after the Brumbies game, I remember that it actually flattered the Chiefs, that score. So they have they feel like my Brisbane Broncos. They're getting the results, but there's another gear.
There is. I think that they've got the players, the squad, and I just think that they don't need to be at their very best at the moment, but they are the best team in the comp, and they will get better.
Okay, I have a question
They're
for
the
you.
team to beat. You beat them, you're going to win this comp.
Did you watch the Enduro Crusaders game, right?
Yes.
Now Fiji,
I watched most of it. I didn't watch all of it.
when you're by the water. Now I'm no geographical, you know this very well, expert. But last time I checked, when you're by the water, you're not at altitude, right? You can't be.
By definition, it would be very hard to
It'd be
be at
very hard to
altitude.
be. If you. So did you see Shea Fihaki's shot at goal? It was, I think, to win the first half.
No, I don't think I...
Oh my goodness.
Was it the
this
shanker?
kick. He's about 66, 67 metres out, and it goes well beyond the dead. He kicks at 80 metres, I
Well, actually,
swear,
I'll tell you
off the
what, no,
tee.
because you're at the equator, you see, because of where they are. Because what happens with the Earth is the Earth goes up like that towards
Stop. No, it doesn't.
Towards the middle.
No, it doesn't.
towards the middle.
No, it doesn't.
Those are my rankings. Chiefs, Crusaders, Reds, Brumbies, MP, Blues, Canes, Force, NS Dub, Highlanders, Drua, in that order. Leave us a comment, argue, debate, agree, disagree. That's the whole point of this DSPN YouTube channel.
This is the DSPN.